Welcome to Our Issues Birmingham. Today's guest needs no introduction. The mayor of the city of Birmingham, my good friend Randall Woodfin. Hello, Randall. How are you today?
I'm good, Tommy. As always, happy to be with you. Glad to be on.
Um, I can't help but comment on your baseball look today. What's up with that?
Well, listen, it's intentional. In 2020, I'm happy to support and acknowledge 100 years celebration of the um, Negro Baseball League. This jersey represents Birmingham's participation in that related to the Birmingham Black Barons. And so I'm just honored to celebrate the Negro League. I'm honored that city of Birmingham actually has a museum, the Negro Southern League Museum here in our city limits, celebrating and honoring not just the 100 years of existence in 2020, but all the artifacts and all the other cool stuff they have promoting this great institution.
As a former employee of Rickwood Field in the concession business when I was a kid, a former Little League baseball player, and a baseball second baseman of pretty good stature until everyone else got bigger. And
Yes,
at that point, my career ended. I think the Southern League museum that you're referring to is outstanding.
yes,
Outstanding place for people to go.
absolutely.
Um, what's going on in our city as we speak? I know COVID has to be on your mind because as of this date of taping, and I suspect your show will be running soon, we're seeing spikes coming back. So what's the word you're getting on that issue?
Well, listen, the coronavirus is still a real thing. It's still a real threat, and we as citizens and as a community and a city need to take it very seriously. And so I am encouraged that for the most part in our community and city, people are complying with the state law around facial covers. We believe that is helping um, prevent more spread. I'm happy to say that the businesses are complying with the capacity rate, that people are still social distancing. We continue to be in constant contact on two levels. The first level with the experts, that being Dr. Wilson with the Jefferson County Health Department, as well as Dr. Will Fernani, as well as Dr. Selwyn Vickers of UAB, who continue to provide information to us. We relay it to the citizens. The other level is directly to the citizens. One of the best ways we do it is through our system of text messaging, where we're giving updates to our residents every day, right in their hand via cell phone, to let them know what they should be doing, what they need to be aware of, and our rate in our community.
Well, the frightening thing I was reading this morning is, of course, the national level spike in cases and the resulting closure of certain communities. And I'm speaking globally because I look at Italy for obvious reasons, being Italian. And I noticed Italy has closed down some of the northern portion and even Sicily, uh, even more severe than they did back in the spring. From what I'm hearing you say, if we continue to maintain those safety precautions that you've talked about, we hopefully will not get to that point.
Yeah, well, listen, we need to respect this virus. It has no borders. It apparently does not care about your race, your social economic status, the neighborhood and zip code you live in. We need to respect what we see and the trend we see in Europe and across seas, because their season changes before ours. Part of what we may need to expect and embrace for, because a vaccine does not exist yet, is when the season changes and it gets cooler and colder. I'll be honest with you, Tommy, for the first time, and I actually took the flu shot this year, because we need to embrace for a season where not only the flu exists, but the coronavirus is still in our air and spreading around. And so we not only want to encourage people to follow the safety guidelines of the coronavirus and what the health experts are telling us to do. I want to encourage people to get the flu shot this year.
Um, well, that's good news. It seems like at a time when we're surrounded by conflict and division and bad news. As of this date of taping, we still don't know the results of the presidential election. It could have changed by the time this show airs, but there's a lot of divisiveness. So I'm glad to know that at least the word we're trying to get out is let's all come together to try to deal with this virus in a way that doesn't really encroach upon our lives too terribly much.
Right.
If we
Let
agree
me
to
say this
just,
to what you just said, Tony.
huh?
Let me say this to what you just said. Every presidential election usually falls on the fault line of hope and fear. And I think we have an opportunity um, that I'm feel good about that 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue should be in a position to represent the hopes of all Americans, not Republican or Democrat Americans, not rural or urban Americans, just Americans. And I believe that hope will win and that we will see something different for the better of our country moving forward, starting January of 2021.
Let's hope so. Um, we're going to take a short break and come back and talk about something else dealing with the city of Birmingham that's going on right now. Don't go away. This is Mayor Woodfin. This is Our Issues Birmingham. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Our Issues Birmingham, talking with Mayor Woodfin, City of Birmingham. We were talking about unification of this country. COVID has had an impact economically on our city, on our country, but specifically to those of us in this community from a revenue stream that you have to deal with in setting a budget. The arts have had to take a hit. That's the number one thing I think of when I see people taking a hit. The libraries have taken a hit. You've had to furlough people. Furlough does not mean fired, but we've had to react to a reduction in income, like any other family. You know, if your income's down, then your expenses need to go down as well. I don't really want to address specifically the parking deck for sale issue just yet, but in a general sense, can you address our budget?
Yes, I think we, like many cities across the nation, because of the coronavirus, um, global health pandemic created a negative ripple. Um, um, the second ripple was an economic crisis because businesses had to um, just stop actually doing business, stop engaging their customers, stop engaging their clients. That being the case, the city of Birmingham, a city like Birmingham that is very dependent upon sales taxes, that's dependent upon occupational taxes, that's dependent upon tourism and events. So lodging taxes all took a hit. It took a hit just between March and June of 17 million. But when you calculate all the way to June 30th of 2021, we're talking about a projection of $63 million budget shortfall. That being the case, we looked to every single thing we could do. The first thing we wanted was, we believe as fair as any city would. We wanted a bailout the same way the White House and the Congress was giving bailouts to everyone else. They gave bailouts to airline industries. They gave bailouts. They gave a bailout to small businesses. They gave bailouts to nonprofits. They even gave a bailout to the transit systems across the nation, which included $21 million for the Birmingham Jefferson County Transit Authority, which is the MAX bus system. But cities, municipalities did not receive any type of bailout. That meant we had to look to either raise taxes or make cuts. There's no way in the middle of a financial economic crisis we're going to raise taxes on our citizens. And so we had to make some tough decisions, unpopular decisions, and make cuts. Those cuts centered around our culture and arts, which a large portion of that was our library system. That is not meant to be long term. And that is not even meant to be to June 30th. But the way you present budgets, you have to present a budget for an entire fiscal year. We have every intention of bringing those small number of employees that were furloughed back very soon. But in order to do that, we have to generate revenue. We had an opportunity in the midst of this, not one, but two unsolicited offers to purchase 6 of our 11 parking assets, parking properties, that is. And those 6 were, the offer was higher than the appraised value of them, which is a total of about 40 million. And so now we're in discussion with the city council. We are in discussion with the public. We actually did 2 polls. Um, One poll was to the entire public that was out there for about 4 days. I want to say 62, 63% of our citizens said sell them. We did another one related to neighborhood officers and other people. It was about 500 people took this poll, and over 80% of those who participated in that poll said sell them as well. And so the majority of the public is very receptive and open to this idea. We don't make a lot of money off the deck. The decks generate about $1 million a year. We give back 600,000 of that to the Birmingham Parking Authority. If you sell them, there's 2 goods. The first good is these parking decks come on our tax rolls. In addition to that, the other 5 properties, we still generate revenue. And then the third thing is you have available retail space that a private developer can actually market and sell. So those 3 sources of income via tax dollars will net us more than what we currently make now. The other thing is the 40 million infusion in cash. When you have not only a short-term $63 million budget shortfall, can solve for expediting bringing furloughed employees back, but on the other hand, can go towards our priority of neighborhood revitalization.
Would the sale of the deck properties, they wouldn't remain decks. They would be converted to other uses.
No, they will remain decks.
They will remain parking decks.
Yes, listen.
Just be operated by private entities.
That's correct. I think it's important that we give a little history here. The reason the Birmingham Parking Authority was established in the 70s was to compete against the suburbs and economic development being spurred in the suburbs because of white flight. And so we as a city at the time had to be creative in attracting development. And so we needed to create parking incentives. These many years later in 2020, the Parking Authority has met its goal. We now need to turn that over to someone that can help us produce more economic development.
And so that's the idea behind what you're talking about.
Correct.
Very quickly, we're not going to be able to finish this topic, but I heard you say the municipalities got no funds from the federal government, and yet I understood the state of Alabama got a chunk of money that if they didn't spend, they were going to have to send back. Perhaps when we come back from break, we can talk about that, because it ought to be, it seems to me, that the state could take those funds and maybe funnel them into some of the cities around the state. But hold that thought. This is Our Issues Birmingham. We'll be right back. Don't go away. Welcome back to Our Issues Birmingham. I'm talking with Mayor Woodfin. So right before we went to break, you had mentioned in your comments about the shortfall in economics and in revenues, and you said the municipalities got no money.
Let me clarify that.
Yes, please.
Because municipalities were able to receive money based on expenditures related to COVID-19. Right. However, municipalities could not use monies related to anything that wasn't already in their budget or related to covering shortfalls. the federal government was explicit about municipalities cities were not allowed to use shortfalls, but the max bus system can use 21 million for budget shortfalls.
Well, but the
Nonprofits
shortfall,
and businesses can use their money for their shortfalls.
I hate to be logical and reasonable and rational, but the shortfalls are brought about by COVID.
That is correct. This is 100% politically driven, where unfortunately there's been a war probably since January of I would say January of 2017, related to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue versus urban cores across America. But our employees and our citizens shouldn't suffer for that. We should have the same opportunity to expend CARES funding the same way any other organization like airlines and transportation systems and nonprofits and small businesses do.
Well, do you know if Governor Ivey is still sitting on some money from the federal government that hasn't been expended yet?
We understand the state is sitting on a significant amount of money in the millions that they have not spent yet, and apparently will have to be turned back into the federal government by December 31st.
If not
If
spent.
not spent.
Well, that would be horrible to have to do that, and certainly seems to be illogical to me. Randall, let's talk briefly about a perception of the city of Birmingham, and this is a hard question. Birmingham looks great. The football field is coming along. The region's Parkside area is coming along. Avondale's coming along. The things that you've done seem to be making Birmingham a more vibrant city. But on the other hand, there's some people that feel that underneath the cosmetics of all that, not much is happening. Can you tell me why people perceive that? I don't believe that that's necessarily the truth, but there is a perception out there about that.
We got to meet people where they are, Tommy. We have to meet people where they live. And where a lot of our citizens live, there's too much blight. Streets haven't been paved in years. Their children haven't had opportunity. They don't live in proximity of healthy food. And so what we've done over the last 3 years, because November 28th will be exactly 3 years, that has been our focus. That has been our commitment. We have aggressively removed blight because our citizens who have that blighted structure either to the left or right of them have been complaining about it for 4, 5, 7, 8 years. We've removed literally over 1,000 of those structures. We have put $30 million worth of street paving in our neighborhoods because our citizens have been complaining they haven't received the proper necessary infrastructure investments they deserve. And in 3 years, we've put exactly $28 million in street paving. We have provided opportunity for their children and our citizens' children and grandchildren in the form of Birmingham Promise, which is 100% hope-driven, where 16 and 17-year-olds can leave high school early, receive credit hours, work 16 hours a week and get paid $15 an hour for that job. In addition to that, when they walk across the high school stage, can attend any state school, college, university, 2-year, 4-year, free tuition, no questions asked, but to live in the city limits. Do you live in the city limits of Birmingham and did you graduate? That's it. And so we've set aside a healthy food fund to recruit grocery stores that are in food deserts where our residents live. Everything I've just named has been the focus. Yeah, we're cool with what's happening downtown, but our focus are the neighborhoods where our residents live.
And that's what I think people don't see because one, they don't go there.
Correct.
and they don't hear about it either. So I know there are food deserts. I know they're on the eastern side of town. I assume they're on the western side of town as well. I don't know about the northern side. And I think the south side is in pretty good shape from what I can tell. So going forward in the future, what are your plans relative to uh, getting away from the cosmetic, but the actual things you just talked about doing and are doing, and expanding on them? What do we foresee for the future, real
So we
quickly?
have to continue to do those things. We have to continue to remove blight. We have to continue to pave streets. We have to continue to invest in our neighborhood parks. We have to continue to wade through as many no's as possible until we get to a yes to bring healthy food to our eastern and western sides of town. We have to continue to invest in the Birmingham promise and offer our children and grandchildren opportunities to work and be paid and be able to go to college. These are the things we have to continue to do.
So essentially, we need to continue to stay the course
That is
and
correct.
keep moving in that direction.
That is correct.
I appreciate your time today. I love the baseball shirt.
Yes, sir.
You're making me want to go put my Chicago Cubs shirt on right now. But thanks for being with us. It's always a pleasure talking to you. It's always a pleasure seeing you. This is Our Issues Birmingham. We'll see you next week.